Welcome to the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. My name is Tanner Kern, certified G, bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. And this right here, this is G Money Grant Mitchell. If we look a little tired today, we're not, because we've been playing college football 26 all night, and we are running on high energy right now from winning national championships, and you can't teach that. Bada boom, man. The people in the room, G Money Grant Mitchell. How you doing?
I appreciate the vote of confidence. First of all, I did not play all night. I actually started, I think I started one of the silent wars with my girlfriend where you're arguing without actually saying anything because I kind of ignored her all of yesterday. And then she went to bed without saying goodnight. So I think I'm kind of in the doghouse. I didn't win a national championship. I logged on. I instantly started a dynasty with Missouri State, the worst team in the game. They're 61 overall. And I turned it up to Heisman. And I'll tell you why. I want to start out with it being as hard as possible. I want to learn the things I absolutely need to do to succeed so that when I get to an online dynasty with my buddies, it's not as difficult as that. So I'm not going to lie. I'm 2-4 right now, but that's kind of what I was expecting. And, I'll take it. This first season, it's a rebuilding year. We're just learning how the game goes, and we'll improve from there.
I really want to play Road to Glory next, but I started an online dynasty, not online, regular dynasty with UConn, and I put it on All-American mode because UConn's going to beat the crap out of all these teams. So I figured I'd simulate it right. Like they only have a few tough games on their schedule. So I'll start on All-American mode. Then when I get my SEC or my Big Ten job, I'll ultimately go up to Heisman mode there. But so far, gameplay is really good. UConn's 8-0. We got a big game coming up against Duke, 14th ranked Duke. That could decide a college football playoff spot, honestly. I'm unranked at this point, but I'm hoping that, we get a win there, prove to the committee that we belong.
So my buddies, we did the same thing last year, and we have two rules in place. Number one is the team you pick cannot be perennially top 25, and they can't be higher than 81 overall, which is, it introduced a funny point because someone said, oh, I can't take Virginia Tech then. And I logged on and I saw they're an 80 overall. So that really shows where we're at. So technically Tech would be a viable team. I've got two options. I haven't made my decision. I might stick with Missouri State, the same team I'm doing the offline dynasty with. And I might go San Jose State. I don't know why, but it just seems cool. I was going to go Delaware, but somebody already picked them.
I'm kind of surprised Alabama's the best team in the game.
And Georgia. I don't know if I'm just overvaluing the importance of one position, the quarterback, but I don't look at this Georgia team, like considering the recent teams they've had and the talent that's in the NFL. I don't look at this Georgia team at the same level as those, yet the college football developers are saying, no, they're the best team in the country, or at least tied with Alabama.
Well, Kirby. It's the Kirby system. Like Alabama's got a lot of talent. We don't know what we're going to get out of the quarterback position there, but just the system, the program, the culture wins at Georgia. It probably will start to win at Alabama. We know Kalen DeBoer's a winner. We know Nick Saban's still involved. So I can't imagine two playoff seasons go by in a 12-team format without the Crimson Tide going to the big dance this year. It just can't happen.
It's going to be a 16-team format this year, I think.
It's 16?
Well, so they don't have to confirm it. They don't have to finalize it until December 1st, but it looks like it's going in that direction.
All right. So if it's 16 teams and the Crimson Tide aren't one of the 16, that's a big issue. Right now, looking at their college football playoff odds, let me check.
They're plus 1,000 to win it all. I know that.
I don't care about them winning all. Minus 162. Like, I think that's a really good bet for the Crimson Tide to get there, especially if we go to 16 teams. Because if we go to 16, you might as well punch their ticket right now. Because
there were two formats being discussed. One was it's more individualized, where they guarantee 4 spots to the Big Ten, 4 to the SEC, and then you got some more at large. And then there's also just a simple 5 plus 11. So the top 5 conference champions, which would probably be ACC, SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, and then Mountain West, maybe like Boise State gets back. And then you got 11 at large bids. So really, the more at-large bids you have, the more it favors the best conference because it's less requirements for the smaller conferences. So you could get like 6-7 SEC schools in the college football playoff.
Yeah, and also, too, I'm kind of a little worried about Texas Longhorns. I think the expectations are a little too high right now for Arch Manning. By far best quarterback in the game. Like, he is fantastic, fun to play with in college football 26. But I just think we're kind of setting Texas up to fail a little bit because it's Arch's first season as the starter. He's the Heisman favorite. All the hype is around him. If he delivers, he'll win the Heisman, but a lot of pressure on him right now.
Texas plus 550, favorites to win it all.
Texas plus 550. Like, I don't know if that's warranted. Like, again, you look at Notre Dame being 16-1, especially getting there last year. Like, I do think they have a much better quarterback this year than Riley Leonard. So just off that alone, I think they're going to be pretty dangerous. Georgia, it's the system. That's why they're up there. Ohio State, maybe, Penn State. I can't see Penn State win the big games. Alabama, potentially. We just don't know what we're getting from the quarterback position. Clemson, I don't think does enough in the transfer portal to be anywhere near a national champion. I think they'll get in. Oregon, that's a potential team this year, depending on what happens at quarterback for them. So there's just I think there is a lot of unknown in college football right now because a lot of guys went to the league. But the fact that we're putting Texas on a pedestal, and again, Arch, this is why he sat for multiple seasons. This is why he sat to be ready for this spot, but it's still a lot of pressure, and we just don't know what we're getting. Arch Manning, the full-time starter against legitimate SEC teams.
Yeah, we're about to get into some really cool NFL topics, but just to put a bow on this. So if you look at the team ratings in college football, 94, 93, 92, et cetera, and you use that to create a 16-team college football playoff bracket, which I did yesterday just because I wanted to see what it would look like. And it was actually super, super interesting. I would love it if this was the bracket. This is using the 5+11 model. So you would get Alabama versus Florida. That would be fun. Ohio State, Penn State. Obviously, that's super fun. You get Clemson versus Oklahoma, which is cool because it's Brent Venables, who was Dabo's DC for a while, going against Dabo and Clemson. This one, Colorado versus LSU. College football, the game thinks Colorado is the best team in the Big 12. Colorado versus LSU. LSU would smoke them. Boise State versus Michigan. Michigan would smoke them. But after that, you get Georgia versus Miami. So Carson Beck versus Georgia. You get Notre Dame and Texas A&M, who played in week 1 last year. And then you get Oregon versus Texas. And poor Oregon, man. I mean, back-to-back years where they just get the national championship favorites in the first round. They got Ohio State last year, and this time it would be Texas.
Yeah. First off, Grant, the game's a little messed up about Colorado because they're 30-1 to win the conference right now.
To win the conference?
30-1 to win the conference.
That's correct. I know I saw they were 60-1. When I was filling that out, I compared it to national championship odds, and I got to Colorado and it said 60-1. And I said, okay, that's the second lowest on the board, I'm sure. Because no way Boise State's going to be above them. Boise State's 40-1. So actually, Colorado was the biggest underdog there.
And if you want one team, before we put a bow on this conversation, as you said, move into our top 10 NFL teams for the year. If you want one team to make the college football playoff, that's kind of easy, I think, is going to really surprise some people. It's the Miami Hurricanes with Carson Beck. Like that, like he said, when he got there, everyone's like, oh, you got big shoes to fill with Cam Ward. He said, bro, you guys lost in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Like, I played for national titles. This is just not, we're talking two different wavelengths here. So I think Carson Beck could put up Heisman numbers in the ACC this year.
Yeah, I was talking to girlfriend's parents, Georgia alumni themselves, just like my girlfriend, and we were having this conversation, and that's rightfully so. I think the Georgia fan base just kind of grew tired of Carson Beck. But that's what I was saying. Like, Miami might not still be that good. They might go to the college football playoff and get stomped, but they could win 10 or 11 regular season games, and Carson Beck could put up Heisman numbers. It would almost be difficult for him not to, considering the talent Miami has and the lack of talent throughout the rest of the ACC. Like, could SMU do something? Maybe. We already know Clemson's going to be in the conference championship, so that's one spot booked. Other than that, like, Georgia Tech, okay, maybe. And then you're looking at Bill Belichick to kind of lead this unknown UNC. It's really only 4 teams that are actually good in that conference.
Yeah, I mean, if Miami doesn't make the ACC championship game, I don't know what to say. They're too talented not to, I feel like, especially adding Carson Beck in. And you can't really judge them right now because we don't know what Carson Beck's going to be there and we don't know how it's going to look in the offense. But like right now, they're plus 172 to make the college football playoff. If he lights it up after a couple weeks, that number is going to shift drastically.
Yeah, 100% agree.
WSN.com is where you can find out about those shifts, all the line movements, the odds, the promo codes, anything you need for betting is on WSN.com. We got betting previews, betting promos, all this good stuff, guys. We're presented by the World Sports Network. It's the best sports betting site out there for your promo codes, picks, articles, bonus bets, you name it, it's on there. And also, Grant, why do they need to subscribe to the Ride the Line podcast presented by the World Sports Network?
Well, if they don't subscribe to the podcast, Tanner, we are going to stop posting. And I tell you what, the views on the videos have been great. The views on the shorts have been awesome. The subscriber count is not moving. So what the heck? It takes 2 seconds, guys. Go on down there, hit that button. It lets us know that you appreciate the content. You know, Tanner and I, we don't record this for nothing. And when we see the views going up, but join the community. It's fun. And like Tanner said, if you are into sports betting at all, WSN.com is a great place to go. On top of everything from picks and predictions, you can get bonus bets at the sports books. And really, at the end of the day, that's all you're there for.
Definitely. So today we're going to be ranking our top 10 teams in the NFL. And honestly, we've done quarterbacks, we've done running backs, and we've done receivers. I do think teams are by far the hardest to rank in the NFL out of everything, because like you kind of know who the top 4 to 5 dogs are, but like, how do you rank them? Like, that's the thing. Obviously, I think we'll agree on the top couple teams, but like 3 to 5, it gets a little murky there. Then when you go 5 to 10, it gets really murky, because like, what are we grading them on? Are we grading them on a chance to win a Super Bowl, just overall quality? You know, so we all do it differently. So I think this is gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I do too. And also, just kind of to build on what you're saying, you know, we can identify if one team is more talented than another, but if the team with less talent has the best quarterback and the best edge rusher and the best cornerback, then all of a sudden it becomes different. Like, you might favor the balance and the depth. I might favor the value at those positions. So like you said, we can look at the top running backs and just pull up their numbers, think about their role, their abilities, and it's more easier to kind of parse. If we're actually talking about the whole 53-man roster, we're going to be taking into consideration second string linebackers and what role do they play, and third down guys and all that stuff. So it'll definitely be more difficult, but I'm excited to see where we line up and where we differ.
100%. So, Grant, the best team in the NFL by far, and I think we'll agree with this, Baltimore Ravens.
Baltimore Ravens is my number one. I was wondering if you were going to put them 2, but I also have them 1.
You know, I think 2 is going to be the Eagles for you, I would assume.
I have the Eagles at number 2, yep.
Both these teams, I think, leaps and bounds better than the rest of the league, starting with the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, you have Lamar Jackson, who was ripped off of the MVP award last year. Like, that was the Josh Allen getting married to Haley Steinfeld MVP honorable mention award. That's what it was. It was ridiculous. Derrick Henry, great running back, obviously. Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, D-Hop now, Mark Andrews, really good offensive line, solid on defense. You know, my biggest fear is, like, are we going to get the Derrick Henry we saw last season? I'm assuming we are, still at 31 years old. You know, we've talked about it many times in the podcast. He doesn't take a lot of hits. He's a physical runner, but he's going to run away from you a lot, save his body. So I think if Baltimore does not get to the AFC Championship, at least, and this would be the year that they need to win it, showing what they did last year, it was a much better performance from Lamar in the playoffs. It wasn't typical like milk carton Lamar, as Julian Edelman would say. It was more like, hey, we made a mistake here, which cost us. And then Mark Andrews needs to probably retire soon.
Yeah, so on top of everything you said, I mean, this defense is just nuts. They've got huge size on the defensive front. They can get after the quarterback. Roquan Smith is just an outstanding linebacker. And then their secondary is absurd. You know, they invested that first-round pick in Nate Wiggins. Marlon Humphrey is a perennial all-pro sort of guy. They get Jair Alexander, and yeah, he might only play 10, 11 games. But when he's there for those 10, 11 games, he's giving you all-pro production. Kyle Hamilton is the best safety in the sport. And then they get Malachi Starks in the first round, who's a guy who was thought to maybe be a top 10, top 7 pick at one point. He did end up sliding, but you know who else slid to the Ravens in the first round? Lamar Jackson. We talk about this with the best teams, with the Ravens and the Eagles and the Vikings, even throw them in there. These teams that seem to have good drafts every year. It's like, how do they keep getting away with it? Well, their roster is so good that they don't have holes to fill. and they don't have needs, their special positions they need to add to their team. So you can let a guy like Malachi Starks slide to the end of the first round, and bam, your secondary was already loaded. Now it's even better. So I think this roster, like you said, the Eagles and the Ravens rosters are significantly better than everybody else. And then if we're just kind of going man for man there, I think they're actually very similar. But Lamar Jackson should be a 3-time MVP at 27 years old. He is the best player on either one of these two teams. And while he hasn't gotten it done in the playoffs, if we're just talking about who's the best team, to me, it's the Ravens.
Yeah, and then moving into the Eagles here, you have Jalen Hurts, who Grant literally hates, but he is a good quarterback. You have Saquon Barkley. I think the receiving core, I wish the Ravens had this type of receiving core because it would just really elevate their play a lot more, even though they're already super talented. But having A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, one of the best 1-2 punches in the sport. You got Dallas Goedert, who's been fantastic. Really good offensive line again. Very similar qualities defensively. Like Zach Bond came through, was that guy last year. Now he's the guy for them. Reed Blankenship, Cooper DeJean in the secondary. I love seeing my white boys play in the secondary. So, same qualities. You got to have a good offensive line. You have a good quarterback, and you got to be really good on defense.
Yeah, I do think they're counting on some unknowns over there in Philadelphia. Andrew Makuba is a prospect that I love. And while CJ Gardner-Johnson was probably the most replaceable player on that defense, you're still asking a rookie to come in there and slot along two other guys who were rookies last year. So now you got 3 of your starting 4 in the secondary are first or second year guys in a complex Vic Fangio defense. It's just a lot of mental pressure on them. Nolan Smith and Nakobe Dean are coming off of injuries. Jihad Campbell is coming into the NFL with a nagging shoulder injury. Zach Bond was a defensive player of the year candidate last year. He was a special teams guy throughout his career before that. So which level is he actually going to stay at? They're just questions. And while I respect the crap out of the talent, and they obviously have the potential to win another Super Bowl because this roster is insane, but I just think there are more questions there, specifically on defense, than what Baltimore has.
And also, losing Milton Williams is going to hurt them too. That was a dog in the middle. Patriots locked him up to a big deal. So there's some things that are definitely going to hurt this team. I don't know if they're as talented as they were last year. I think, like you said, they're relying on some unknown talent, but we know what we're getting at least out of Hurts, Barkley, Brown, Smith, Goddard in that offensive line.
Barkley's the one that I would also be a little concerned about because maybe not concern is I would just keep an eye on him because if he has 1,500 yards, let's say, if he has 1,500 yards and 11 touchdowns, it's an outstanding year, but it's not 2,000 yards. So does that mean you lose another 2 games, another 3 games maybe? It's just something that I'll keep an eye on. It's hard to have that many carries to play that far into the season and then come back and have the same fervor and the same bounce in your step as you did the last year before.
Potentially, but I don't think if he has 1,500 yards, he's still doing well above average of what he needs to be doing to win games. You take away some of these long Saquon Barkley runs that he had, probably can take back to 1,500 yards. They're still about in the same spot. But I agree. I don't think he's going to be Mr. 2000 again.
Yeah, he bailed them out, which is weird to say about a running back in the modern NFL, but he did bail them out. So again, I'm not saying the Eagles are going to be bad. I'm not saying Saquon's going to be bad, but if there's a close game and Saquon, the Rams game, he kind of, the play where he's smacking himself in the helmet, he kind of won that playoff game and they still barely won because Stafford almost led that comeback. Early in the year, Dallas Goedert might have saved Nick Sirianni's job because he got that 60-yard crossing route against the Saints. And Saquon also had a 60-yard touchdown run in that game when it looked like the Saints were going to beat the Eagles. So just little things like that have the ability to change a season by quite a lot. So we're splitting hairs here. These are 2 best teams in the league, and we're not arguing about it.
Definitely. The 3rd best team in the league, out of respect, is the Kansas City Chiefs.
I have the Buffalo Bills.
See, I got them a little further down. I don't think Buffalo's that good. I think Josh Allen's good. I don't think Buffalo overall is that good. So I'm going to go with Kansas City Chiefs.
So I would agree with you in the sense that I think the Bills are a bit overrated, and I have them 3rd, which I know kind of hypocritical. I don't have a good feeling about what's coming for the Chiefs, and I will get to them later in my list.
It's not that I have a good feeling about what they're going to do, but we know they can win football games. We know they're going to be a playoff team, and we know that pretty much every elite quarterback in the AFC has a hard time beating them. And like when you think that's the thing about the Chiefs, when you think they're down, they respond. Like I do think last year's Super Bowl was not the nail in the coffin because they still made it to the Super Bowl, but that was a defining moment for them. But they have this kind of last dance vibes going right now. And I think if you're talking about the last dance, this is the run that they're going to go on. And I think it could end in the division round, it could end in the AFC Championship, but we know they're going to be a threat down the road. We know they're probably going to host a playoff game in Arrowhead where Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson come to town and have to beat them to officially end the dynasty run. So until we get that, I got to put them third.
I totally understand that. I'm all for respecting the best team in the league as of the last 7 years or so, or however long this mini dynasty has been going. But I think the nail in the coffin was that Super Bowl. I think that was the last dance, because the last dance was all about winning the three-peat. And in the case of the NFL, a three-peat had never been done before. The Chiefs were literally 4 quarters away from it, and they got absolutely embarrassed. And now you've got players on that roster getting older. Patrick Mahomes, we know what he's done, and it's a testament to him that he's been able to win in so many different ways, whether it's been dinking and dunking, bombs away to Tyreek Hill when he had Travis Kelce at his best, when he was relying on bit part guys. He has made it work. But if you look at his things like his yards per attempt, air yards, it's a straight line down over the course of his career. And he's had numerous press conferences where he's talked about just not seeing the deep ball and things of this nature. It's just, I'm wondering, is he still able to be explosive? And although it's not necessarily a requirement to be explosive in the modern NFL with all the weapons that are out there, it certainly helps you. And I just have a lot of questions about that. The Chiefs, I feel like they can't run the ball for more than 4 yards on a given play, and they're relying on Mahomes to make these big plays outside of the pocket. I just don't know. I think it's going to start to fall apart for them pretty soon.
Yeah, but what's fall apart? Like, I think fall apart is not making the playoffs. If they get to the AFC Championship or the AFC divisional round, again, they can do that very easily with their division. I think they're going to be fine. You got Rashee Rice, you got Xavier Worthy, you got explosive guys now, so we're starting to get back to that potentially. As these guys start to develop, maybe we'll get back to more of that Tyreek Hill style offense. And I do think they're going to be okay. And I think the official end of the dynasty needs to be when they get beat in the AFC Championship by Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. More likely Josh Allen, just because he really, he's the guy that can't beat Mahomes in the playoffs, but he can beat him all the time in the regular season. Like, that's his narrative more so. I'm not saying Lamar can beat him in the playoffs, but Josh Allen gets more of the criticism for that. And I just think when we're talking about the dynasty overall, you're still going to have Tony Romo being like, Josh can't beat Patrick in the playoffs. Josh can't beat Patrick in the playoffs. So until we get that, you really got to respect the Chiefs.
Well, again, I respect the crap out of the Chiefs for what they've done. I've said for years now I would bet them in every Super Bowl. Last year's Super Bowl cost me, but who cares? The Chiefs' upcoming schedule, they've got the Chargers, they've got the Eagles, they've got the Ravens. At the Jaguars isn't a walk in the park. They got the Lions, they got the Commanders, at Bills, at Cowboys. This looks like it might be a Thanksgiving game. Texans, Chargers again. Obviously, divisional games. You got at Vegas, at Broncos. Broncos, an upcoming team. Vegas with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith and Ashton Genty. That's not a walk in the park either. And the Chargers went 11-6 last year with basically no offensive talent, and now they've added some guys. So I'm looking at this team. I genuinely believe this is like an 11-6, 10-7 year for them, and they'll still be in the playoffs, but I don't think they'll be anything close to what they were in the last few years.
The Raiders are going to suck. Let's be real. The Raiders.
I disagree. I think the Raiders are going to win probably 7 games.
That's not good.
Well, it's not sucking, and considering they won 4 games last year, I think they could win 7 games and beat the Chiefs one time.
No, they have to win 9 games to beat the Chiefs one time. I don't think they steal one against them. I don't think Geno Smith's very good. I don't think Pete Carroll is of the age to coach football anymore. So,
well, my point being,
franchise overall is just not, that franchise is not good.
My point being, I think this is an 11-6, 10-7 year for the Chiefs. And if that's the case, I cannot put them number 3.
All right. So you want to go number 4?
I'll go number 4. I have the Los Angeles Rams.
Wow. They're really far down on my list.
Okay. Do you want to explain why, or you want me to
start? You go. And then, well, I'll tell you who I have. I have the Detroit Lions.
Okay. Well, I'll jump ahead and I'll say I have the Lions number 5. So at least we're in the same neighborhood there. The reason I have the Rams there is their defense was so young last year, and it got a lot better as the year progressed. And Sean McVay being kind of this offensive boy genius, I don't want to say it's something that you doubted his ability to do, but maybe it was a question mark. And he proved that, no, I can take a young defense and I can coach them up and help them improve and get to the point where when we're facing the Eagles in the snow, we are almost knocking them out. The Rams, people forget the Rams were the Eagles' toughest opponent in that run to the Super Bowl. You look at some of their players on their roster. Again, the defensive side, Kobe Turner, Poona Ford, Jared Verse, great young players, Darius Williams, guys that can make significant impacts. And then on offense, they've got a proven Super Bowl winner with Matthew Stafford. Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams is a hell of a 1-2 punch there. They've invested in young running backs. I don't know if Kyron Williams will continue to be the guy, but they did draft Blake Corum and they did draft Jarquez Hunter. So you think they're going to at least figure it out there. And their offensive line was solid last year too. And they might have the best coach in the NFL. So considering what they did last year and how I think we're at 2 or 3 years in a row now where they've gone on these incredible runs in the second half of the season, speaks to me of good coaching, figuring out your strengths and weaknesses, playing around them and adapting. And I just like this team.
I like it. They're on my list. They're a little lower on the list, but I like it. Detroit Lions, simple stuff. The playoff loss last year to the Commanders was unprecedented, very shocking for them. I think they're going to respond from that. We know the team is good. You have the quarterback, game manager, as Grant would say. He's not a big Jared Goff guy, but you have a good running back, good running backs. Receivers are there. Offensively, you know you're going to score points. They've done it for years. Now Aiden Hutchinson returns to the mix. After the injury, the defense has just been improved year after year. I think this is the year that they can do something. Now, the schedule is brutal, which is going to make it very difficult, especially to just get to the playoffs and succeed in the playoffs, probably not playing at home. But I still think this is a fantastic football team with a lot of talent.
I do too. I think they're incredibly talented. Some movement on the offensive line. You are counting on a rookie, Tate Ratledge, to probably be your right guard. But Tate Ratledge was awesome. He was an All-American as a junior, I believe, at Georgia. Got hurt his final season there, but he should be back to normal. Also, a ton of injuries on the defensive side of the football last year. Even if the players aren't at their best, as long as they're healthy and on the field, then they should be better than they were, leading in the playoffs. Like the Commanders absolutely went out there and dominated, and Jayden Daniels, the coaching staff, Terry McLaurin, they were great. But they were playing second string, third string practice squad guys. If it's a first string defense, Washington probably still wins, but they might not score 45 points like they did. You've got a potential defensive player of the year with Aiden Hutchinson. He's coming back. Just a lot of guys. And although you lost Carlton Davis, you replaced him with DJ Reed, which is a lateral move, if not an upgrade at that point. For me, I've said it before, the biggest thing I would be worried about is losing both coordinators. But maybe these guys are, I didn't know who Ben Johnson was until he went to Detroit and did a great job. So maybe these guys will do good jobs there as well.
Yeah. And I think the system too, like the system's just in place for them to be successful because of what Dan Campbell has built. He's a leader of men, Grant. Big difference. Big difference.
Yeah, it's funny because we were talking about college football. When you create your dynasty, you get 3 options for coach. You get strategist, motivator, and recruiter. And there are definitely coach archetypes. There are your tacticians, there are your motivators, there are your culture setters. Dan Campbell is definitely in that sort of, it's a culture setting number 1. And then on game day, like I might not coach you in terms of, I might not refine your technique to the best that I could, but I'm going to give you so much belief in who you are, and your teammates are going to believe in you, and you're going to believe in your teammates, and that's going to raise all of us together.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Grant. Well, now we got number 5, and this is where the Buffalo Bills come into play for me. And okay. I think when I look at the Buffalo Bills, obviously defensively, they're in really good shape. I think this defense, especially the front seven, is going to be very difficult to stop. But I look at the offense, and I know you got Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakur. I do think losing Mac Hollins kind of hurts them a little bit. That was a big play guy for them. That was a possession receiver. He could throw it up. Josh could really target him on like deep outs and all that stuff. But you got a lot of what if guys. Like I called Josh Palmer a what if guy. I think he's going to have a really good season this year. It's a much better scenario for him, but it's a what if guy. I look at Curtis Samuel, what if guy. I look at Elijah Moore, like what if guy. What are we going to get out of these kind of football players? Are we going to get the breakout seasons? Are we going to get supportive, guys for Josh Allen to make plays down the field? Because when you don't get that, I think you're putting a lot of pressure on Keon Coleman, who is a very good receiver, but he is by no means the top echelon of receivers that came out of the draft last year. So you really need, this is going to be the strength of the team rather than the strength of an individual. So is Josh Allen going to get enough support from the receiving crew? If he does, I think they're fine. But that's a big if factor for me.
That's a very valid point. I think we would have said that last year as well. It gave me confidence, or it gives me confidence, because I saw what they did last year. They were able to win 13 games and win playoff games. So although they might not still have your prototypical Super Bowl skill position assembly, they have proven they can win games. But I understand the concern. The reason I had them up at 3, I like some of the things they did with the defense. Joey Bosa might not be in his prime anymore, but he's going to help. Matt Milano will be healthy. They've needed to get a solution at corner, and I don't know if Maxwell Hairston is going to be that guy or not. But he's at least an option, because what they had there with Kyrie Elam and guys before him wasn't working. And you know what? They have Tre'Davious White back. He tried to leave last year, went to the Rams, went to the Ravens, didn't work out. Now he's back in Buffalo, so maybe he can contribute there as well.
I don't trust Matt Milano one bit. I mean, 9 games played.
You mean to be healthy?
Yeah, to be healthy.
Okay.
He's not that guy anymore. You can't call him that guy after playing in 9 games the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, well, yeah, I see what you're saying. When he's on the field and he's available, he is that guy, but you just mean that he's not the guy in the sense that he's not a guarantee, because you don't know if he's going to be healthy.
30 years old.
I mean, one of these was like a broken arm or something, right? Like that's a little bit of a, it's not an ACL tear, sprain ankle or something like that.
I think it was a collarbone, but he's 30.
He is 30. It's a linebacker. He's not a running back.
No, but he's 30. That's getting up there for a physical linebacker who's played in 94 games. It's getting up there.
No, I mean, you're right. So top 5, I had, just to recap, I had Ravens, Eagles, Bills, Rams, Lions. You had
Ravens, Eagles, Chiefs, Lions, Bills.
Okay, so difference is I have the Rams in my top 5. You have the Chiefs in your top 5. I have the Chiefs at number 6. And again, if we're going off of just, Mahomes, in my opinion, is still the best quarterback in the league and got so much respect for this team. But my biggest thing here is going to the Super Bowl 3 seasons in a row and being 1 game away from pulling off the first ever three-peat in league history. And then you just get crushed from the opening drive. We texted each other after the opening drive when Mahomes it was 3rd and 15 or whatever, drop back, scramble left, looped all the way around, threw across his body to the right into double coverage. It was dropped, but it should have been a pick. And we texted each other. We said, this game is over. Yeah, he's overwhelmed. He doesn't know what to do. The Eagles just have more talent. It's done. When I think about that, and I'm looking at this roster, and you're right, Rashee Rice has had his moments. Xavier Worthy did have his moments, especially in that Super Bowl at the end of the game. A couple big catches there. But do they have that super, super dependable guy? No, they don't. Travis Kelce is 35, and he has the turning radius of like a school bus now. I don't think he's really going to be able to get open super well. Chris Jones, still great, but also getting older. The defense hasn't really made many moves at all. I think they're still going to be good, but I don't think they're going to be elite to the point that they can carry them to wins. And then they can't run the ball. I know if you look at a metric like success rate, they'll rank well because they're just intelligent with how they use their running game, but they have no explosiveness there at all. They wanted to replace Isaiah Pacheco. They couldn't. Kareem Hunt is the backup. There just aren't answers there. Brashard Smith is a converted wide receiver rookie they took in like the 6th or 7th round. I don't know. I think there's a lot of mental and physical fatigue here, and I think that's going to take its toll.
Maybe, but they have Patrick Mahomes. So they still got to the Super Bowl last year. I mean, Josh Allen would love to go to a Super Bowl. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. He would love to. I mean, I think they would love to get spanked like that in the Super Bowl because they can't even get there. So until somebody gets there, I think they deserve to be higher, but that's just me. You're not going to like this one, Grant. You're not going to like this. San Francisco 49ers.
Okay.
They're going to win 17 games this year. I mean, they're playing a Pee-wee schedule, so they're going to win probably 17 games. You got Brock Purdy, obviously one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL now. You got Christian McCaffrey if he can stay healthy. And again, we don't know if he can stay healthy. If he doesn't, they got Garendo, and you drafted Jordan James. I like Jordan James out of Oregon. Ayuk, Jennings, Pearsall. I think Pearsall is going to be a stud. Ayuk can still get it going. Jennings, getting up there. Kittle, still a dog. Juszczyk, dog. Offensive line. Trent Williams getting older. It's a younger offensive line now, which is an issue. Defensively, you still have some big names. You got Nick Bosa. You got Fred Warner. You need some help in other places, but this team is too talented to not. This is probably your 1 seed in the NFC. So I need to put them this high on the list.
So I do think the 49ers will win or 11 or 12 games this season just because their schedule is insane. We've been over it. Why not go over it again? They've got Seahawks, Saints, Cardinals, Jags, Rams, Bucks, Falcons, Texans, Giants, Rams, Cardinals, Panthers, Browns, Titans, Colts, Bears, Seahawks. You avoid the top 10 teams in the NFL pretty much with that schedule. So I do think they'll win 11 or 12 games. I don't think they'll be great. There's a difference between making who's going to have a top 10 record and who are the top 10 teams. McCaffrey, I hope to God this does not happen. He might tear both of his Achilles. I mean, he had 2 calf strains last year. Calf strain is now the gateway to an Achilles tear. Is he even going to be able to play? Ayuk coming off of a torn ACL. Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall, kind of the same thing we were talking about with like the Chiefs guys. They've shown moments, but are they dependable? No. The 49ers offensive line last year was not good. Trent Williams is now 36 years old. He'll be 37 when the season starts. Not many defensive upgrades. Michael Williams, I actually liked his teammate, Jalen Walker. I liked him better. Now, I'm not saying my opinion is better than the 20, 30 guys who went into making this decision, but I think there was at least a school of thought that Jalen Walker was the guy. You lost one of your top corners, Charvarius Ward. You lost your safety, Hufanga. You lost Dre Greenlaw. I disagree here. I don't even have them in my top 10.
Well, they're going to win 12 games, and potentially if they win 13, they're the 1 seed in the NFC. So
it's possible. Like I said, I think that will happen. I think they'll win a lot of games, but then I think they'll go to the playoffs and get smoked.
I don't know, Grant. If they get rolling, you got Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's legit.
You got Mac Jones too, Tanner.
That's a good backup. Like, who would not want Mac Jones as their backup quarterback? I think anybody in the league would love to have a guy like Mac Jones. Who would you rather have, Mac or Will Levis as your backup quarterback? Mac.
Yeah, but I mean, Mac, a first-round quarterback from Alabama 3 years ago is not supposed to be a backup.
But, that's a good backup to have.
It is. It is a good backup.
It's a good backup to have. Okay, so who's number 7 for you, Grant?
Chargers.
See, I don't even have Chargers in my top 10.
See, 11-6 last year. I get they gutted some of the defense, but I think they upgraded on offense. Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton will be better than J.K. Dobbins and Gus. Was it Gus Edwards they had? Whoever else they had there. They draft Trey Harris in the 2nd round, help the receiving core. Mike Williams and Quentin Johnston can be deep ball guys if Vlad McConkey is actually going to be the player we saw last year. They have been raving about Gadsden, this rookie tight end from Syracuse who put up huge numbers. Their offensive line is outstanding, could be the best offensive line in the league by the end of the year. And they've got a defense which under Harbaugh doesn't really matter who's on the field. It's going to be a top 10 defense. So I don't know. I think 11 games is the floor because that's what they did last year. And I think they'll be better than they were last year.
Harbaugh is wasting Justin Herbert's talent.
See, I don't think you can say that if they draft McConkey last year, they draft Trey Harris this year, and they go out and sign Mike Williams.
But they're still going to run the ball. Like they're going to do is run the ball, and they get in the playoffs and they're forced to throw. They can't do it, and that's what I see from this Chargers team. 27-1, Grant, on the Super Bowl list. You're going for a little long shot here.
Well, I don't think I would take them to win the Super Bowl, but honestly, that's good value. I don't hate that.
They will probably finish second in the AFC West. I still have the Chiefs winning the division.
If push comes to shove, I would probably bet that. Well, I'm not gonna say I would bet them. I would pick them to win the division as well. This actually does tie in. So, do you have the Broncos in your top 10 here?
No,
I don't either. And you can get the Broncos for about plus 100 to miss the playoffs. And now I know we differ on the Raiders there, but I think the Raiders could at least split with the Broncos, if not beat them twice. Considering how good the Chargers are, how good the Chiefs are, you're getting 1-to-1 value there. I think that could be a pretty good bet.
I just don't like rooting for teams to fail for plus 100. Like, these if I'm taking future bets like that and I'm getting like even money minus 110, if I'm taking a win total or whatever, I kind of want to bet on teams that I'm going to watch.
That's totally understandable.
Right.
Last year I had a parlay, which was a 3-team parlay of teams to miss the playoffs. And it was the Saints, the Raiders, and the Giants. And it was like plus 130, which isn't amazing. But then we fast forward to the end of the year, and those are like the 3 worst teams in the league.
So easy money.
Yeah, that's the thing. We could look back on this, and if the Broncos go 7-10, 8-9, maybe it wasn't exciting, but you're also like, oh wow, it also wasn't a sweat. I didn't even really have to worry about that.
But the Broncos are also, it's year two of my guy. Why can't I think of his name? Bo Nix. So you don't know what you're going to get in year 2, which this leads into my number 7 here. I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders, Grant.
Okay. You got them higher than me.
I don't know what I'm going to get in year 2, but if he can make the progression, Jayden Daniels, from year 1 to year 2 and continue on that path, you have Cliff Kingsbury still there, and they improve some pieces around him. I think this team can be very dangerous right now. You're 19-1 to win the Super Bowl, so you're right around the Rams at 17-1. And I just think this Commanders team, the way they played in the playoffs last year, they got blown out by the Eagles, but they also gave the Eagles dogfights in the games that they played them in the regular season. I like the Commanders, Grant. I really do. I don't know if we're going to get year 1 Jayden Daniels, and if we don't, that's probably going to lead to their downfall a little bit. But I think what Dan Quinn's been building, the culture there, like, you got to take that into account, and this team's worthy of being in the top 10 for sure.
So I do have them in my top 10. It's funny that you have them above me. I think the Commanders are going to go 9-8, 10-7, something like that next year.
Season.
What'd you say?
That's a good season. That'd be a really good season.
Yeah, the win total I want to say is 9.5, so it would be right around expectations. I'm not saying that because I think Jayden's going to have a sophomore slump, and I don't really think, if he does, I think it'll be like CJ Stroud last year. And I get at the end of the year, Stroud wasn't the same guy, but as I've said numerous times, his offensive line didn't protect him at all, and his top 3 receivers got injured. So was it a sophomore slump, or was it a product of his environment? That could happen. If Jayden sprains his throwing shoulder, or receivers, offensive linemen get hurt, yada, yada, yada. My point being, I think the guy we saw last year, I think that's who he is. I think he's at least in the conversation, if not definitively a top 5 guy, a quarterback in the league. We'll be able to determine that 2, 3, 4 years from now. I think you're going to get good play from him. I just worry about the rest of the roster, because as I said numerous times, last year's success was about Jayden Daniels, and it was about the coaching staff. I can appreciate that the offense or the front office went out and upgraded the offensive line. Laramie Tunsil, Josh Connolly, that's good. That's how you sustain winning for the future. But the guys that you need to get over the top, Brian Robinson Jr. is not going to be that guy. They have no explosiveness in the backfield. Terry McLaurin, you don't know if he's going to sign the contract or not. Deebo Samuel, is he the washed guy who he was last year while he was injured, or is he going to be back to being his best like he was those years with the 49ers? The defense was just atrocious against the run last year. They brought in Marshawn Lattimore to fix the secondary. That didn't work. They draft a corner, Trey Amos, in the 2nd round. Is that going to work? Bobby Wagner's 35 years old. Is he going to be able to hold up as the middle of your defense? There's just so many questions there. And when you consider that they had 6 fourth quarter comebacks last year, and they only beat, I think, 2 teams with winning records during the regular season, I think, like I said, 9-8, 10-7. I have the Commanders at number 8 on my list. So they're coming up next. I have them right there. But all these people who are putting them like 2nd, 3rd, 4th, I think you're jumping the gun on that.
Who'd you have at 7 again?
Chargers.
Okay, so 8 for me, knowing you have the Commanders coming up. I have the Los Angeles Rams. We talked about them a little earlier. I love what Matthew Stafford can do. I love the receiving core. Obviously, Puka Nacua is a certified star. The defense got better, like you were saying. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. They've invested in that a lot. And you got arguably the coach that everybody wants a coach to come from in Sean McVay. So I like the Rams. I think this could be a sneaky team to win the NFC potentially this year. You got to beat the Eagles, which they literally almost did in the snow last year. That game was the toughest fight that the Eagles had in the playoffs.
And let me just jump into it. It's not just that it was in the snow, so that's a weird game. That's important because the snow fits Philly. Philly's the physical run. That's not LA. They're the West Coast pass the ball team, and yet they still almost won.
But like the snow didn't even affect them. Matt Stafford was throwing all over them. I gotta look at his stats from this game.
One of my best friends is an Eagles fan, and we were live texting during that final drive, and he had some just absurd throws. My friend was fully convinced that they were about to win that game.
26 of 44 for 324, 2 touchdowns, and that was in like blizzard snow in the second half. So pretty amazing. I think these guys probably look at my list. I probably should have put them above the Commanders, potentially above the 49ers, but I still fear the oldness of Matthew Stafford. This is a team literally that was ready to give up last season halfway through the year. There was a lot of we're giving up rumors. We're going to sell Cooper Kupp. We're wiping house. Matt Stafford's done. And now they're back. So I have my hesitancies there if things don't go right this year, but they're very talented.
My number 9 team, I got the Houston Texans. Again, I'm not quick to blame CJ Stroud for what happened last year. I think he's still a top 10 quarterback. We did our rankings. I had him at number 8 on my list. Got the Texans at 9, so almost the same spot. Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb and Dameon Pierce. Someone's going to figure it out. I'm not saying your running game is going to be prolific, but you're going to be able to succeed in key moments. Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, the new addition. Also, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, the rookies. Maybe they make a difference, whether Tank Dell does or does not play. The offensive line probably can't be worse than it was last year. And still, they won the division, made the playoffs, won a playoff game. And that defense last year was actually pretty incredible. People don't talk about the Texans, but they had a top 4, top 5 defense last year. And they added CJ Gardner-Johnson to it. So, yeah, really like the Texans. And they played an easy division.
Yeah, I do not have the Texans in my top 10, but I agree.
Okay, who's your number 9?
Cincinnati Bengals. They have no defense last year. They have a coach that just likes to gamble on 4th down, and they still almost made the playoffs. They were 1 loss away. Or 1 win away, I should say. If you beat the Patriots in week 1, you make playoffs, which is crazy to think as bad as their defense was. Shamar Stewart, who needs him? They're fine. They don't need him. He's not going to play this year probably, so who cares? When you look at Trey Hendrickson, he's in a contract year now, so he better show up.
He might not.
Doesn't matter. Okay, you don't want to show up, Trey? That's fine. You're cannibalizing the rest of your career. That's basically what it is. So if you think you got any more good years left in you, don't show up. I think with the Trey Hendrickson situation, though, the Bengals are doing the right thing there. 100% doing the right thing. Because now you're not doing the right thing with Shamar Stewart. That's where you're messing up a little bit. But Trey Hendrickson, why are you paying a 31-year-old defensive end who's still under contract for a year? That makes no sense, especially when you had the guy ready to sign. Now, it looks worse because you didn't sign Shamar Stewart. But anyways, the offense is nasty. This team's going to put up points. They're like a backyard football team. They're going to score. Can that win the playoffs? Yes, it can. They just got to get there. And I think Joe Burrow is by far the 2nd best quarterback in the AFC.
I really struggled with where to put the Bengals on here. If you're looking at futures odds for the Super Bowl, let me see how many teams are in front of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So they're number 10 Actually, they're tied for 9th in Super Bowl odds. And I didn't, obviously, I've listed 9 teams. I haven't got to them yet. They were in consideration for my 10th spot. I just don't know, because if they get rolling, they could beat anybody. You know, this, it doesn't matter what's going on with them. They seem to play the Chiefs better than everybody. And that's because they have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They have game winners. But on the flip side of that, the defense is a game loser. That's how you lose to the Patriots. You know, you didn't replace Jesse Bates when he left a couple of years ago. You might not have an edge rusher at all if Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart are not on the field. This defense was atrocious last year with the defensive coordinator that a lot of people respected, Lou Anarumo. They fire him, so now we've got a new defensive coordinator who I don't really know anything about. I don't know if he's going to fix the defense or not. I just know I liked their last DC, and he couldn't figure this team out. So there's holes. There's reasons for me not to trust them. I know what Burrow is. I know what Chase is. I know what Higgins is. But aside from that, I know next to nothing about the rest of this team. So I can't put them in my top 10.
Coach Lou had to go, Grant. Coach Lou had to pack his bags.
And someone had to go.
Yeah, it was Coach Lou. It wasn't the offense. I mean, Zach Taylor did some dumb things. Don't get me wrong. Like, there was a lot of like 4th and 4s. Probably should have punted, because especially when your defense is that bad. But I understand that too, because if you give the ball to the other offense, no matter if you're 50, you're 20, or the opposing 20, they're going to drive the field with how bad your defense was. So the best chance is just keep the ball in Burrow's hands. But it doesn't look good all the time. All right, so we got 9 taken care of, right?
Yep. So my number 10, you know how I said the Bengals were tied for 9th in Super Bowl odds? The team they were tied with is my number 10 team.
That's crazy. The
and
Vikings.
It's the Minnesota Vikings.
That's insane.
Now, this one makes me it's funny because the Vikings are the anti-Bengals. I know everything about everybody on the Vikings except for the quarterback. And it's a quarterback-driven league. So that can make all the difference. If JJ McCarthy's not ready, this team could go 6-11. It very well could happen. But they also just went 14-3, I think, with Sam Darnold. So JJ McCarthy, I don't want to disrespect the man. He wasn't the guy in Michigan. He knew how to play his role. And with the coaching of Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores, if JJ McCarthy knows how to play his role and he can do it well in this offense, well, the team's probably going to win 11 or 12 games just because everybody's so good. The offensive line is great. The receivers, they've got the best one maybe in NFL history. They can run the ball well. They can get after the quarterback. They can defend the pass. They can stop the run. They can do everything you want. Again, it's just that one question mark at quarterback. But if he can just be average, you know, people love to hype up Bo Nix. I'm not on the Bo Nix train. The advanced metrics support a lot of what, like EPA and things of that nature. They all say Bo Nix is actually like a bottom 12, bottom 10 sort of quarterback, but he played his role. And that's just what I need JJ McCarthy to do. Play your role. And the team is so good, you'll win 11, 12, 13 games. So I got the Vikings at 10.
Bo Nix made some passes last year that blew my mind. Like, the arm strength is uncharacteristic.
The Bengals one, I will give him this because I gotta say this because I'm labeled a Bo Nix hater. I think I'm a Bo Nix truther. But that Bengals pass, according to Next Gen Stats, which I want to say they started in like 2016, 2018, it was the longest completed pass that they had on record.
I mean, that pass. It was Thursday Night Football. It was insane. And it just, or it might have been the Saturday night game, whatever, late in the season.
Yeah, it was a night. It was a weird. It wasn't a Sunday afternoon.
No, it wasn't a Sunday afternoon. I remember it was on NFL Network, and that pass was just unbelievable. I saw that. I was a Bo Nix guy. Right. Then I saw that. I will always be a Bo Nix guy, because if you have that arm talent, you're going to be a legitimate quarterback in the NFL, especially when you're under a guy like Sean Payton, who's going to figure you out and get you going the right direction. Okay, so Grant, Vikings, dumb pick. That's a rookie quarterback, dumb pick. Green Bay Packers, number 10.
Fair.
I like Jordan Love. And this could have been between the Packers and the Texans. I would have never considered the Vikings for this spot because I just don't know what we're getting from the quarterback in a quarterback-driven league. It could have been the Chargers potentially, but I do think out of the 3 teams, if I go Packers, Texans, Chargers, I will take the Packers 100% of the time. Jordan Love gets a lot of crap. Some days he's good, some days he's bad. Like when he first came onto the scene from being the starting quarterback, everyone was like, this is why they made him sit behind Aaron. Then, he kind of takes back seat, does not deliver all the time. Had some really bad performances last year, especially in the wild card round, 20 of 33, 212 in 3 picks against the Philadelphia Eagles. But that's the Eagles. I do think Jordan Love is still more on the side of game manager than a guy who can go out and take over games. But I love Josh Jacobs at running back. The move to Green Bay was just a perfect fit for his career long-term, 1,300 yards last season. I like Jayden Reed. I like Romeo Doubs. I like Tucker Kraft a lot. I think they got a big physical offensive line and they got a strong defense. So no reason the Packers can't be in the mix this year.
No, they were also in consideration for my 10 spot. The defense last year was a pleasant surprise because they've had talent. They just haven't been able to figure it out. They hire Jeff Hafley from Boston College, and he comes in and does wonders with that defense. So good for them. I don't trust Jordan Love at all. I think he's very capable of losing games, and I don't see him as a guy who's going to win you a bunch of games. Josh Jacobs is a nice player, but he also broke 100 yards 3 times last year in 18 games. And then the receivers, it's a bunch of number 2s and numbers 3s to me. Jayden Reed, Matthew Golden, Romeo Doubs. I couldn't believe they drafted Matthew Golden in the first round. Of all the years to break your streak of not drafting a first-round receiver, I think since 2002, for it to be Matthew Golden, it's just more of what they have. It's a smaller, faster guy who's a little bit limited in what he can do. And, he came from Houston, and I get that by the end of the year, he was the guy at Texas, but he didn't have that role for a long time in the season. You don't know how he's going to hold up as an X in college, much less in the NFL. So, I think around 10 is a good ranking for them. I'm certainly not mad that you have them there, but I think the upside is a bit limited with the team.
The Texas receivers are legit. Like the Texas receivers always come through in the league. I think Golden's going to be great. I think Golden could be that Tyreek Hill kind of player.
What Texas receivers are there even in the NFL?
My guy for the Chiefs.
Worthy. Yeah, Worthy. Worthy we don't know.
Worthy's a stud.
Adonai Mitchell,
yep.
Colin Johnson, Devin Duvernay, Marquise Goodwin, Jordan Shipley.
I'm just saying Worthy's very similar to Bond. First-round draft pick for the Chiefs last year. Had a good season.
Bond? You mean Golden?
Golden, I mean. Yeah. Golden. Worthy and Golden are very similar.
They are. I liked Worthy a lot better. I mean, Worthy ran 4.20. Golden ran whatever. I think 4.29. Like not like that's a huge difference, but
they're still burners. They can still get.
He is a burner, but I don't know, man. I mean, his numbers last year.
They needed a bigger receiver. They did need a more possession receiver.
I mean, he had 149 yards and the game-winning touchdown against Arizona State. He had 2 catches for 49 yards against Clemson, 2 for 51 against Ohio State.
Big play guy.
3 for 77 against Georgia, 1 for 23 against Oklahoma, 6 for 41 against Michigan.
But I also look at those games, and I don't have the numbers in front of me. I know Texas lost starters on the offensive line this year, but Quinn was under pressure a lot. Quinn dealt with a lot of pressure.
I think it's more. I think really the case to make here is that Jordan Love has a strong arm, and Quinn Ewers had a pool noodle.
Quinn Ewers is that guy, Grant. I don't know if you know that, but Quinn Ewers is a stud. I think Jordan Love is. I mean, listen. I trust Matt LaFleur. If Matt LaFleur wants this player, he's going to get this player, and he's a hell of an offensive mind. So he has an idea of how it's going to work in his system.
I just don't know how a receiver wearing the jersey number 22 can be good.
I mean, he played at Texas. Texas is back.
Receiver number 22? Come on. That doesn't sound real.
Texas is back, Grant. Texas.
You were just saying Texas has a lot to worry about this year because they're under so much pressure.
If they go out and do what they're supposed to do, they're going to win national championship.
I mean, they probably should. They probably have the most talented team in college.
Alabama does, actually, according to College Football 26.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Ty Simpson, I have no clue. I have no clue what he is.
Yeah, we don't know. But anyways, that was our top 10.
Let's do one final recap here. So I've got from 1 to 10, I have Ravens, Eagles, Bills, Rams, Lions, Chiefs, Chargers, Commanders, Texans, Vikings.
I go Ravens, Eagles, Chiefs, Lions, Bills, Niners, Commies, Rams, Bengals, Packers.
Okay. So guys, you heard it. Go down to the comment section. If you're still here, it means you enjoyed the video. So show us that, prove yourself. Go to the comment section, let us know who had the best list. If you want to, if you feel inspired, make your own top 10. And while you're down there, hit that subscribe button as well.
Yep. That was Ride the Line, the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. We will see you next time for another episode.